sorry, Irmina, I don't understand. The problem is that you cannot talk with your administration, or your administration don't say the answer.
Yeah, I thought already.
Yes.
Already, yeah, I thought already to administration, but they didn't answer me. With debit note, can ITS transfer or not?
Okay, okay. So we wait until you give us an answer. Okay.
Yeah, this is regulation, bureau administration regulation, Kiara. It's difficult for me.
Your internal regulation. Yes. I don't know if you want that we ask to the try to give an answer. Otherwise, we can try to ask to European Commission. I don't know if
yeah, okay.
If we can try other
wait, tomorrow, not tomorrow, yeah, tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow I will try to ask vice rector, second vice rector about the budget. This is top manager. Yeah, I think better if I ask them, because I ask every time to financial office, no answer. Yeah, I won't try tomorrow. Tomorrow I won't try ask to vice rector, second vice rector. Yeah.
Okay, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But have you resolved the problem also with the other European university?
I'm sorry?
With the other European university, Turku, have you solved the problem?
No, for Agora, no problem. Already
problem, because Agora is not is a private, is different from university, I think.
For Agora, already ITS transferred in November.
I think that it is another regulation respect to university.
Okay, yes.
So I think that Turku has this similar problem to us.
Turku and Unibu.
Yes.
I'm sorry for that. Yeah, I don't know how. Because this is regulation, yeah, this regulation, and the money in university, not by me.
Not me, even.
Me, I don't have, yeah. Hello, Mr. Idris, Mr. Patel.
Hello to everybody. Nice to see you.
Hello,
nice to see you.
Hello, everybody.
I remember meet with Mr. Battery in Turku University in May 2018.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. We had other project earlier.
Yes, other project, Spire project.
That was a nice one too.
Yeah.
And we had a meeting in Kuala Lumpur. Unfortunately, yeah. I couldn't travel there, but I did meet you in Bologna, I believe, and in Turku at least.
Yes.
And in Bangkok.
And in Bangkok.
Also,
yeah.
Bangkok, Bologna. I think I met Andrea, Chiara. I met Andrea September 2017.
I see some photos of the Spire project. That's very a funny project.
Hello, John.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Hi.
And today session for Mr. Pasi, what time for breakout room session?
No, we don't have any breakout rooms today in the plan.
Today. Okay. Okay.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Hopefully we'll have a lively discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think there's lots of room for discussion. I mean,
How
after
many?
the first three presentations before the coffee break, and then after the of presentations.
Okay.
Now we have 13 people.
Yeah.
Irmina, another question in the meantime that
Yes.
we are waiting. About the visit, the study visit, have you have you requested to the European Commission if we have to do in this year, or we can postpone in the best year?
No, for question, I must answer about vaccination schedule for the people here, because after vaccination maybe we can schedule for go outside. Yeah, we still wait for to vaccination, Ciara, because from government regulation, verboten, yeah, in this time verboten go other country.
Okay, so it's okay for the European Commission that we don't do the visit now, and also in the we don't have to plan internet or online visit. No, we postpone the visit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the project budget? I mean, because in many of these projects, there's lots of money allocated to travel, and now we are not traveling anywhere.
Yes.
Nobody's traveling anywhere. So can it be transferred to salary budget? The travel budget, which will not be.
I want just for equipment.
All for equipment? No, if it's possible.
My suggestion for equipment. Yeah, because for salaries we cannot get for salary. Yeah, I ask for equipment.
But I guess there's some sort of a big picture ground rule within the EU projects now, because nobody travels anywhere. And there's in every project there's a massive travel budget, so there has to be a way to
converting travel money into other budget lines has been possible in other projects.
Yeah.
So the coordinator should check this with the funding office.
Yeah, because it's the same we have many of these projects, and it seems the further away outside of Europe are the partners, then there's a big budget, of course, and understandable.
Ini juga ada. Ini juga ini dia ini ini. Sekarang banyak. Tuh ini sangkutnya. Sama dulu.
Somebody asked if I have a Manchester United badge. Yes, yesterday was University of Turku. Today is Manchester United. We'll see what's tomorrow. I'm a member of this club. I'll go to watch a game a year with my son, who's a member too. So, but not this year. Nobody goes anywhere. Yeah, and I mean, Irmina, you talked about vaccinations. I guess in
Yes.
Finland, I guess we will get the vaccinations during the summer, I guess.
Oh, during summer.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Hopefully.
less than 20. I mean, 18% of the population in Finland has been vaccinated already. So,
because of herd immunity. Yeah.
So
we get herd immunity. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we will hopefully get it by the end of summer. So then, and hopefully elsewhere too, so that it's safe to travel. But we don't know about we don't know about the mutations and about the whole.
Okay. I got the first vaccination last Friday.
Yeah.
And I feel sleepy after vaccination. But second vaccination, yeah, the end of April.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in the UK, I mean, they've been giving vaccinations pretty much, and in the US as well. I mean, a massive amount of vaccinations.
Yeah, I think in the UK, 30 million people have been vaccinated now.
Yeah,
I think it's almost 60% of all adults have been vaccinated.
Yeah.
So you will get the herd immunity pretty soon.
Yeah, herd immunity.
I think that's the idea.
Yeah. And then you can start opening up the society. I mean, because I mean, I guess the lockdown has been pretty tight in the UK compared to Finland, for example, because there are so few of us and it's a big country. So, I mean, there's.
Yeah, we've hardly left the house for the last year.
Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, Brazil and now there are talks that there are another mutation in Tanzania, which hasn't ordered a single vaccination because of the president who believes that they don't have the disease or they don't have the COVID-19 and I mean, actually the president died and they assumed that it was due to COVID-19. And there's a new mutation in Tanzania. So, I mean, I mean, it might be a long problem in a way that we get a yearly vaccinations if there are more these mutations.
More strains, yeah.
But that's the way it is. How many people do we have now? We have 29.
Okay.
How many people did we have yesterday?
We can start.
Yeah,
maybe
okay.
The other people come join too late.
Okay, I can start.
We can start.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon in Indonesia, or good evening, and in Italy it's 10:09. So I mean, and in Finland 11:09. So welcome to the second day. It was a good day yesterday. We almost kept the schedule. I mean, and I try to keep it today as well, so that it won't take too long a day for the audience. Today we will have. I will go through the program shortly. We will talk about the theme of the day is the university engagement with business. We have different. We look at that activity from different angles. I will shortly talk about it before we have Professor Gabriel talking about embedding enterprise in the curriculum. Then we have my short speech about collaborative and contract research. And then we have what's going on in the University of Bologna as far as university business collaboration is concerned. Then we have hopefully time for questions and discussion. I have prepared my presentation so that I can talk for hours, or I can talk for 10 minutes, so that I try to do it so that we have time before the coffee time. Yesterday we had 4 minutes for coffee time, so that was a bit short time. So I'll try to keep in, I mean, the schedule. Then we will have a few other cases which deal with the same issue, university engagement with business. Research-based consulting, that was something that we touched on yesterday. We did a project, and my colleague Petteri Sinervo will talk about its airport concepts. It was about developing airports. Then there's another one from Petteri, joint infrastructure, how the industry can use the equipment and infrastructure of a university, and that's collaboration again. And then we have Unibo's presentation, Corporate University Academy for Industries. And today we don't have these breakout rooms. We hopefully have discussion time or time for discussion at the end of the day as well, because that is, I would say, more fruitful in projects like these, because there are, might be many issues and there are different angles as I presented. But if I open up the day's agenda, so as we discussed yesterday in the breakout rooms, there were some problems in engaging the industry with the day-to-day university activities. And they come in many shapes and forms. I mean, universities are not ivory towers. They are very, very fruitful and important for the surrounding society. And it has been so even from the start. I mean, it's funny that people who graduate from a university and appreciate the education, once they move to outside the university to work in the industry, they are calling universities as ivory towers. I mean, I don't know what happens. Why does it happen like that? Because nowadays, I mean, as I said yesterday, more and more funding comes through these projects for universities and for research. So that forces us in a way to be very active with the industry. And again, my background is in a business school. So of course, I mean, if we don't do anything with businesses outside, how can we do any research when it comes to business school? Then it's easy for technical universities, or easier to collaborate with the outside world in order to develop something because of the nature of the science. But what we have tomorrow, and actually today, we have presentations dealing with other sciences than natural science area, meaning that all kinds of collaboration can take place in different fields of science as well. And that's why I appreciated the University of Bologna presentation yesterday when they showed the evolution of from technology transfer to knowledge transfer, if you like. And that's something that I want to stress: knowledge transfer, and it goes both ways. And when today we talk about university engagement with business, it's not only getting some funding for the university, but the university learns a lot from the industry while collaborating. We have in many fields, there's a massive R&D activity going on in companies. So they are doing all kinds of things that the university can learn from. And I'm stressing all the time that it's a two-way street where universities and industries can collaborate, and it can be single lectures company visits from that type of single activity to long-term, many-year-old programs and everything in between. So when, I mean, and we have been doing this for a long time. Actually, I've been doing this for my entire academic career. And it's funny that, I mean, many, as we discussed yesterday, there are personal ties which might end up in a more
internasional. Ini dari apa ini dari Kanada. Dan kita cuma
let's not underestimate the personal ties, for example, so that people have networks outside the university people. So how can not take advantage as such, but how can you use them in order to build networks, build collaborative projects, for example, and be attractive to the outside world. So we have examples today. We have different types of examples, and they are in the continuum of single activities to long-term, ongoing, established activities. So there are many shapes and forms in university industry collaboration. That's the theme of today. And I would ask now, I mean, Professor Gabriel to start taking us to the agenda from your point of view, please.
Good. Okay. Can I share my screen, Amina? Can everybody see that?
Yes.
If I can get it on full screen. Okay. Thank you, Pazzi, and good afternoon to some of you and good morning to others. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, or just gone 9 o'clock in the UK. So it's a bit early in the day for me, but anyway, it's a pleasure to be with you all. I just pick up a couple of things really from what Pazzi's just said, which I think is really important. I do think we've gone beyond the model of knowledge transfer, and I think you know, there were some good examples of that trajectory yesterday from the University of Bologna. I think and technology transfer. I think it's much more about a knowledge exchange and to signify the two-way. I think is very important, and I think it goes back to something that was raised by partners yesterday, the issue of trust. And I think trust in part comes from the assumption that we're learning from industry as much as industry and the outside world is learning from us. And I think if we approach industry, especially in the early stages of building relationships, with the idea that we're learning from them, we're learning what their problems, what the issues are, and the kinds of knowledges and skills that they require, I think that's a very good starting point for building a trusting relationship. I also just thought I'd throw in, since we were talking about the COVID before we started today, just to remind everybody that in the UK, one of the biggest vaccines that's being used at the moment, AstraZeneca, was mainly funded by Oxford University in collaboration with AstraZeneca PLC. And I'm one of the many who've been vaccinated using that vaccine. So I think that from the point of view of relationships with industry and business, that's a very good example, very topical example of the ways it can work. The other thing I just wanted to throw in at the beginning, I feel very guilty about this. In the previous training workshop we had, one of the partners from Indonesia contacted me and asked me if I could tell them something about working with the tourist industry. And I tried to get back to them afterwards, but I couldn't find their contact details. So if that person is in the audience, then please get in touch with me. I'll leave my details at the end of this presentation, my email, and by all means get in touch with me, and I promise I will get back to you. Okay. So I thought I'd better just clarify what I mean by enterprise. Two things really. One is that we tend to think of enterprises as entities, as businesses, and there are different kinds of businesses. In the UK, there are for-profit businesses, obviously, and the growing sector of social enterprises, which are not for profit and which have different kinds of objectives other than commercial objectives. But I think what I'm particularly interested in today really is thinking about enterprise as a way of working, or a sort of an understanding, a set of skills. And I've included some of the key ones there: criticality, innovative thinking, problem solving, risk taking, networking. And if you have a look at the kind of definitions of entrepreneurship, you'll see quite a lot of overlap with entrepreneurship. So what I'm interested in is thinking about the ways in which those skills, those understandings have been developed within the curriculum as a whole. And as Pasi says, it's not just the usual suspects, the technology, the business parts of the university, but across the university's curriculum, I think there's scope and opportunity to develop these skills. And I'll say a little bit about that shortly. So my background is, I'm a professor of sociology, and I teach philosophy to health students, health ethics. So I have in the past been the Dean of Social Sciences and Humanities. So I've got a kind of a sense of the spread of subjects across those areas. And I've also served on the executive group of the university and on the board of governors. So I've got a kind of broad overview of the university in terms of its characteristics and the spread of subjects. And I will draw on that in my presentation. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about London Metropolitan University. It's one of the most diverse universities in the UK. Students come from around 140 countries, and disproportionately high numbers come from socially disadvantaged backgrounds and Black, Asian and minority ethnic backgrounds. At one point, there was a statistic which indicated that there were more students from those backgrounds at London Metropolitan University than the top 10 universities or considered to be the most prestigious universities in the country. So you can see that the kind of profile of UK higher education is quite polarized in a way, between the more prestigious universities, which attract students from middle class, socially advantaged backgrounds, and some universities like ours that tend to attract a very different demographic. There's a strong commitment to equity and inclusion, social inclusion, as you would expect from that demographic, and to social change. We see that graduate employment is one of the ways in which we can contribute to social mobility. to provide opportunities for our students from disadvantaged backgrounds to move upwards in their career paths and to get jobs and get qualifications that probably other people in their families haven't, which has really encouraged us to focus on the applied curriculum and applied research, thinking about how can we improve the life chances of our students and how can we through research make a difference, a positive social difference. So we see in a way enterprise skills, the kind of skills I mentioned in the previous slide, and work readiness as really synonymous. So we're constantly thinking about the ways in which we can prepare students for work, make them as equipped as possible, as ready as possible, so that they have the optimum career opportunities. So we don't necessarily restrict at all our activities to a particular enterprise center or organizational unit in the university, but we see it as important to permeate the curriculum in ways that I'll illustrate now. So one of the priorities for the curriculum at London Metropolitan University is for its courses where it's appropriate and applicable to gain what's known as professional body accreditation. Professional bodies historically have been a way of restricting entry into the professions to graduates that have a qualification, a degree that's approved by their professional body or professional association. And the ones that are relevant to our university are in the health and social care, for lawyers, solicitors, regulation authority, the Royal Institute of British Architects, the British Psychological Society, Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, and so on. So we have 72 in all programs that have that professional stamp. That means that we have to comply with the requirements of the professional body in terms of the curriculum. And one of those requirements, which I think is quite an interesting one, and provided the university with some leverage to appoint people from the profession to teach on those programs, is that they're inevitably requiring the degree programs to be staffed by a minimum number, it depends on the degree course, of staff with professional experience. We also use that as an opportunity to not only appoint staff with that experience, but also staff with an interest in research that's relevant and appropriate to their professional areas. So we, in our staffing policy, we have a criteria that includes both professional experience and applied research experience. And that's really sort of summarized in this slide. So we're constantly on the lookout really for staff that can teach students from the standpoint of their professional backgrounds. And you can see here how we've appointed staff from the various sectors of industry and the public services and the creative industries to teach on our courses. And I would say, just going back to what was said yesterday, this is another way of building relationships with those industries that they come from, and also a way of building trust with those industries because they can see how serious we are in talking the kind of language they talk and addressing the issues that face them day to day in their various sectors. One of the, I think the ways in which the university has changed over the period of time that I've worked there is that a number of the degree programs that were not attracting large numbers of students have been turned into degree programs that have a much stronger relevance to the industry or to the public sector. So if we take interpreting and translation, for example, we're not teaching modern languages per se, or classical languages, but we are teaching those languages through applied languages, through the profession of interpreting and translation. So we have state-of-the-art interpreting facilities with language booths. The courses run through a series of study visits with the European Union, the European Commission, the Court of Justice, the United Nations, and the European Parliament. And we have links with the Chartered Institute of Linguists that approves our master's degrees in interpreting and translation. Again, with digital forensic and cybersecurity, it's not computer science, but it's an application of computer science. And it's focused very much at an industry, and it's accredited by the Chartered Institute for IT. So that involves live projects. So through the links with the cybersecurity industry, they create a project, build a project around some live issue, which involves software issues and problem solving. Our alumni then go and work for those industries and come back and teach on our programs. They offer coaching courses, internships and business support masterclasses, and they create the framework for those collaborations for research projects. So both of those areas, interpreting and translation, digital forensics and cybersecurity, they're really kind of examples of the ways in which the curriculum has changed and been turned into curricula which is much more related to the workplace, and the theory that is introduced into those courses is relevant insofar as it can be used practically to develop those enterprise skills and understandings. So we run work placements on all our courses, and integral to those courses, the work placement courses, is an assessment which involves a portfolio for students to reflect on precisely those kinds of skills that we've been talking about, the kinds of problems that they were involved in addressing on their work placement and how they thought about them, the kind of problems that they identified, so their kind of intellectual curiosity. What were the problems as a kind of relative newcomer to their workplace? What did they see wasn't working? What were the gaps in terms of the nature of the service or the product that they were engaged with? All of those skills are part of enterprise skills, and we get them to reflect on that in their main assignment for those work placement courses. We have a module called Impacting London. One of the strategic priorities of the university has been to find ways in which the university can make a difference in London, to transform. London's a city which is extremely diverse, has challenges with regard to disparities of wealth, from the very rich to the very socially disadvantaged. Some of the poorest parts of the UK are in some of our London boroughs. We have more charities in London than any other part of the UK, and we obviously are home to the International Finance Centre. So these social disparities throw up challenges, and one of the university's priorities is to address those, to bring about greater social equity and social justice. So if we talk about architecture, They have an interesting model in architecture. Each year, they bring in a number of practicing architects to the faculty. The architects do a pitch for a project that they're involved in their professional practice. And the students vote for the project that they like best. And the ones that they like best, they form groups and they work with that architect to realize that project. What's interesting about architecture at the university is that it's got a very strong social purpose. So many of our students come to London Met to finish their architecture degrees from some of the more quote unquote prestigious universities in the UK, precisely because they will be working on social projects whilst they're at the university. We also have a unit at the university called the Child and Woman Abuse Studies Unit, QASU. They run a master's program and they do national and international research projects. And it was very interesting to see recently that one of the master's students who did her dissertation on financial abuse against women has subsequently created her own charity, the only charity of its kind working on economic abuse against women. And she's just been awarded the Order of the British Empire, which is a medal, a series of awards that are given biannually in the United Kingdom for people who've been very successful in their areas of work. So that's a very good example of somebody who, through their research, identified a gap in support and services for women who suffered from violence, identified financial abuse as a form of violence against women, and set up her own charity as a result of that. Professional doctorates are a fifth way in which we've worked at the university to promote these links with businesses. So I've got two here. We have a doctorate in education and one in policing, security and community safety. So these doctorate programs are aimed at people in the profession. So we get a lot of practicing teachers and head teachers coming to do our education doctorate. And they come really with ideas and experiences of the profession that they want to convert into research topics. So they're aware of some of the gaps in provision, some of the needs of their sector, and they come to the university to draw on some of the conceptual and theoretical debates and think about ways in which they can use those as tools for a research project and applied research that might make a difference in terms of professional practice, that might form the basis of an intervention in their area of professional practice or policy. So there's a constant lookout for evidence-based solutions to current issues. And there's a taught and thesis component to these programs. So they get a refresher course in terms of the most up-to-date debates and theoretical issues, but they're also able to undertake their own independent research projects, which counts as part of their doctorate program. And the final way in which, and I wanted to deliberately chose this last, the big idea is very similar to the slush program that we heard about yesterday from Finland, from Helsinki. It's a competition that's open to all our students, and it's run out of our accelerator building, which is in Shoreditch. And I thought it's worth saying about this building. Shoreditch now is the heart of the tech industry in London. It wasn't 15 or 20 years ago. Shoreditch was one of the poorest parts of London. But thanks to EU funding, and the social fund in particular, the university and the local borough in Shoreditch were able to create this centre for enterprises and businesses. It includes enterprise programs, boot camps, launch pads for startups, incubators, and it's part of the university. And from that very small beginning, Shoreditch became, as I say, the local centre in London for technical industries. It's also a thriving, very gentrified part of London. It's full of art galleries, bars, coffee shops, restaurants, as well as new tech industries. So each year the university runs the competition, the Big Idea. It's not run by students, it's run by the accelerator, but it gives students a pretty clear brief. It's not just for business. It can be a social product, it can be a creative endeavor. It can make the world a better place. So it's not just about social betterment, social improvement, but there's a clear steer towards students who are thinking, whatever their nature of their business, towards something that will be of benefit to society. And the categories that people can apply under, students can apply under, a commercial, community, environment, and creative. There are prize monies, £30,000 worth of prize money, and a lot of free training and office space if when it comes to the actual startup of these projects that students submit their business plans for. I mentioned the last one, which was an example of somebody who won one of the prizes in the Big Idea. She was one of my students, as it happened, but I can take no credit for it. I taught her ethics and research methods. What she drew on was a source that she learnt the recipe from her grandmother when she lived in Ghana. And she came to the UK and tried to replicate the sauce, but she couldn't find all the ingredients. So she improvised, much to the delight, satisfaction of her friends and family in the UK. And it was so successful that she decided to patent it and market it. And that's what she's done. It's so successful that the BBC, the TV corporation, included it in its Christmas, the Christmas edition of its Good Food magazine. And interestingly, Ruth, who was the student, gives all the money from the profits from Ruth is Best Sauce to a domestic violence charity, which is supporting women from of African background. So there's a kind of clear social connection and social purpose to this commercial enterprise. So just to sum up some of the main points that I've made, and I wanted to draw really a little bit on what was said yesterday, just to highlight the importance of context for how you approach links with enterprise. I think it's important to say in the case of London Met that what I've described is extremely compatible and complements and has to be thought of in the context of the history of the university and its core values. So many of us, and I include myself in this, came to London Met precisely because we were aware of the fact that it was prioritizing research that had an impact on society's challenges, that it was committed to social justice and social inclusion, and that it was concerned to support disadvantaged students in their careers and thus contribute to social mobility. So I came to London Met after working for 20 years at the University of Birmingham, which was at the other end of the university spectrum in terms of the demographic of students that it attracted, and honestly paid very little interest to some of the values that are held by London Met. I think in terms of the models that we heard about yesterday, I would say that really London Met combines a top-down approach with a bottom-up approach. So I would say that the senior management buy-in is crucial in order to provide the appropriate and relevant organizational framework, the financial incentives, the appointments criteria, the promotions criteria, all need to be in place for staff to feel that they're being valued and supported in their endeavors. But you've got a staff at London Met who are very committed to those values, and we need to ensure that they have the independence and autonomy to develop their own curriculum and their own applied research projects. So it's very important to strike a balance between something that's facilitating, but not overly prescriptive and top down, with something that allows and encourages staff to develop and to be enterprising in themselves in terms of their ideas for curriculum development and research. So in that sense, that way of thinking, enterprise as a way of thinking, is embedded in our curriculum and in our research. It fosters a critical thinking, a kind of intellectual curiosity, which is absolutely essential to develop the appropriate research skills and creative problem solving. It's important to allow students and staff to engage with the outside world in whatever sector it is, to address live projects, that's to say projects that come from different sectors of society, support those projects and find creative solutions to the problems they raise. And in that way, I think you can build bridges with the outside world, and you can build trust. As a result of that, despite our demographic and the high levels of unemployment amongst some groups in our society, 96.7% of our graduates were in employment or further education 6 months after graduating, and over 80% were in graduate level employment. So the model works for our students in terms of getting graduate level jobs and hence an opportunity to move up the career ladder. The range of employment makes an impact on our communities in London, and London now has many graduates of London Met who are human rights lawyers, business leaders, social workers, people working in the arts and creative sectors, teachers, architects, politicians, scientists, a whole raft of professions that have been harnessed to that enterprise way of thinking. So you don't have to be Oxford University, although you probably do have to be Oxford University to fund the COVID vaccine, because you need a lot of money. But at London Met, what I think we've got the support of senior staff. We've got a strong, coherent mission that's linked to social mobility, and we've got a staff committed to social change and social justice. And the result of that is a very strong applied curricula and research activity within which enterprise plays an integral role. And for anybody who wants to contact me, that's my email address. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Gabriel. I mean, there were lots of these examples that we used, or I used yesterday, and I will use in my next short presentation. But any questions now? We have time for questions. Or we can continue and then have questions after 3 presentations. Okay, if there's no questions now, you can think of those. So I will share.
Hello, Pasti. Can I?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Alfarisi. I come from University of Ponegoro. I am really interested with the presentation. I'm sorry I didn't turn on my camera. I still have problem with the connection. Actually, when I heard the concept of the way of the university building the enterprise, it's really interesting to know about it. And I'm really interested actually how many students you are dealing with, and then in Indonesia we have to have in some university we have many students to deal with. We on the way of doing the project life that needs the unit by the industry or the society or the outside of the university. But the problem is some problems that I face as a lecturer in the university is I have to know what kind of project that first is suitable for the students, and then the second is not every students can participate with that one, because we have in one class we have quite big student. I mean a lot of students in one class. So I'm interested to work with the kind of enterprises and to work with kind of the project. How many students in you are dealing with, and then how we deal with if we have a lot of students in one class, or maybe in one class. So we are expected that students have more critical thinking skill, and then they will build their mind to join to build that enterprises. So it's not like it's not mentioned. It's not mentioned in the curriculum, but it's inside of the project itself.
Yes. Well, I think that I can say that I think the university as a whole, there are around 10 to 12,000 students. I can't remember the exact number. I think including part-time students, there are probably about 12,000 students. So it's quite a small university. With regard to the the development of relationships with business, one of the things I think that management and the university as a whole can do really is to create organizational units and people, but people who are actually brokers for developing these relationships with business. And I think we've got plenty of examples from Bologna and Turku of how this is done. But if I just give you one example, we have somebody in the university who's responsible for leading on the Impacting London agenda. So she will come to my research group, for example, as she has done, and will say to me, Camden, it's a local borough, wants a website for its older people to try to make them feel less isolated, to give them a sense of a network. Could you do it? So we built a website for them. We collected old stories of old Camden and put them on the website, and we interviewed older people in Camden to talk about their lives. That's only one example, but there was a lot of critical thinking, creative thinking amongst a group of students and staff working with Camden on that project. And there are many, many other examples I could give of the kinds of projects I've been involved in over the years. Yeah. Does that give you an idea? So I think you've got to be open to what the sector wants, and to think about the ways in which you can harness the skills that your students have and the understandings that they have, but put them in situations where they have to think in enterprising ways.
Kemana ya sudah ada kita?
Okay, thank you. And one more question, John. I really interested, and I saw that some of the subject, no, some of the major in university are already specific, and it's really great. To your university or to every major have to have that kind of critical thinking or enterprises, or it's only for, okay, let's push on the business class only, or every class you do the same, or what did you do then? What do you do?
So I think that there are degrees of those skills being developed in the different degree programs. I don't think it's I wouldn't go as far as to say it's even across the curricula. And there are lots of debates ongoing in the university now about the ways in which we teach those kinds of understandings and skills. And I'm very involved in those discussions and debates. But I think it's an area for professional development. We have a higher education research group at the university, a seminar series that's attended by staff, and that's one of the key issues that we look at, is the ways in which we can foster critical thinking and enterprise skills in our teaching.
Okay, thank you, John. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I will start.
Pasi, can I have one question, please?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Professor Gabriel, you mentioned about very good figures from your experience in London Metro Uni, that in 2018, 96% of graduates were in employment or further study after 6 months. In our case in Indonesia, it is now some of the rich people tend to pursue higher education level in order to get a job easier. But for unfortunate people, they tend to attend vocational education so they can pursue the job at the earlier age. Can you explain the portion of graduates in employment or further study? Which one is the highest, have a highest number in UK cases?
That's a really good question. I wish I'd brought that data, so it would have to be off the top of my head, but I think it's around about 1/3 of our graduates go on to higher degrees. Okay. So 1/3 will be in higher education doing postgraduate awards or PhDs, and 2/3 will be in employment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So there's one raised hand. Please, go ahead. Shoot. I mean, you are muted.
Muted.
Okay, I'm still muted. Thank you, Dr. Malinan. Thank you, Dr. Gabriel. Yeah, I like the badge. I like the badge, Dr. Malinan. Hopefully, Dr. Gabriel can show like at least Chelsea or Spurs or any London team would do. It would be a good fans of football. Okay.
Unless it's not Liverpool.
Unless not Liverpool, okay. Yeah, I mean, amazed by the Dr. Gabriel presentation about, especially when how London Metropolitan University can differentiate themselves by establishing distinctive mission statement. I'm really inspired by that. I mean, giving a social impact is very impactful. I mean, here us millennial young lecturers would really love to bring impacts, and sometimes we just need that kind of inspiration from the, other universities like yours, and hopefully we we can do that similar things here. And second is, I would like to know how many like Dr. Palinan said yesterday, it takes time. And in your case, in London Metropolitan University, how many years does it take to build all those things? Like building accelerators, creating event charities, how many years has it been doing? Like 20 years maybe, or 10 years? We would like to know how at least in our mind, how many years would it take? Sometimes young lecturers would not be, we didn't have that kind of patience. Sometimes we would like to have an instant response, but it takes time. We believe that it takes time. And also this third part would be, you're giving impact to local contacts, governments, and social. Connecting to yesterday's workshop, how did you get funding from doing those kind of activities? You're doing the activities, you build relationships with businesses, you create impacts, and how can university, how can it bring funding to university in your case? Thank you, Dr. Gabriel.
Thank you very much for your comments and questions. And first of all, just let me say, I didn't mention it earlier, but I'm also a Manchester United fan. And my dad was a Liverpool fan, so there was a lot of conflict in our house. Thank you for commenting on, it's very gratifying to hear your commitment to the kinds of values that shared by London Met, and I'd be very happy to keep in touch with you. And if there's anything we can talk about that would be helpful to you, I'd be very happy to continue our conversation. With regard to funding, in my area, I have to say it's relatively small grants, but I have worked on projects that are funded by something called the National Lottery Heritage Fund. And that gives grants to local organizations that work with the universities. So in the case of quite a big project that I think it was about £100,000, we worked with the Museum of London and a charity involved with supporting refugee communities. The project then sought to collect the histories of 15 refugee communities in London, and the end product was a major exhibition at the Museum of London. It provided an alternative history of London and proved to be extremely inspiring and empowering for the different refugee communities that were involved in that project. That was funding through the National Lottery Heritage Fund. We have Arts Council funding, Humanities and Social Science funding councils, also the Wellcome Trust. So there are funding bodies in the UK that we apply to and get grants. But I know that our industry sectors will get money from industry in order to develop pump prime research projects that work in collaboration with them. So you have to do a lot of scouting, a lot of, and you have to build up that research profile slowly. You're not going to get a big grant straight away. You'll have to start small. Sometimes the university will offer you small amounts of funding to incentivize that kind of activity. Hopefully it will do that. And then you can build on that profile and build and submit bigger grant applications to external bodies. Sometimes working in collaboration with universities that have got a track record in research funding is another way in which you can kind of build your own track record, or finding more experienced researchers that have got a track record, but who would be willing to include you on their research team.
Thank you very much. And that was a pretty good sort of a bridge to my presentation. I will start with, if I can share the screen, let's see. Yeah, I'll start shortly with the presentation of our university in the sense of when it comes to contractual research or collaborative activity. So this is the official presentation by the university. So I'll show you a few things. Okay. So what University of Turku claims that it's multidisciplinary, that's something that we discussed yesterday. And that's something that I, as a researcher of innovation, I'm a strong believer of, so that you bring in different types of expertise. That helps you. Okay, we are international and we are research university. Among the top 1% of the world's universities, 25,000 students and employees. We have 20,000 students, give or take, and then like less than 5,000 staff. The academic heritage, because yesterday I was boasting, I mean, Bologna, I mean, almost 1,000 years. So academic heritage started in Turku since 1640. But the first Finnish-speaking university, we are now, last year we spent, that was the 100-year anniversary for us. And the slogan of the university is from a free people to free science. So that was, when it started, it was funded by the local people. They collected money in order to start a Finnish language speaking university. Okay, these are the faculties. So this is like, we have it all. I mean, like in any big universities. Then we have 5 independent units. Praha Center of University of Turku, it's the one that me and Petteri and Matti are members of. And then there are other biotech, astronomy, all kinds of stuff going on. Lots of scientific publications, because that's how some of the funding comes to the university. The more you publish in high-class journals, you get a bigger portion of that type of targeted funding. So that is another change that has taken place in Finland when it comes to university funding. Then there's other sort of profiles, what we are doing in the university, which are more or less multidisciplinary, like biodiversity and sustainability, future technologies and digital society, cultural memory. So these are, they come closer to, I selected to take this presentation when I was listening to Professor Gabriel's presentation, that we don't, I guess, we don't stress the values and norms as much as London Met, but they are there. I mean, and that's why I wasn't planned to show this slide set to you, but I mean, I was inspired by Professor Gabriel's presentation. Okay, we study how fossil. Okay, this is, I mean, sustainable energy stuff. 200 doctors, PhDs per year. That's the output. So 3,500 staff. Then there are some innovations that have span out, if you like, from basic research in our university, like xylitol, which is it's not like sugar, but it's what's the word in English? But it's sugar-like stuff that is helping on or has an effect on teeth decay, and that was discovered at the Institute of Dentistry of the University of Turku. Then there's a lots of medical research going on. So now Professor Johanna Ivaska has been very successful in when it comes to certain types of cancers and medical drugs and methods and techniques to deal with certain types of cancers. And this is like, there's all kinds of examples here. So, and they state in the university pages that each year over 100 different innovations and dozens of invention disclosures originate from the research conducted at the university. Okay, entrepreneurial. Now I'm moving to my own presentation. Stop sharing now, and another one. I try to be fast. Yeah, and this was the set that I decided to show you. But as I said, I was inspired by London Met, and I'm not marketing our university as such, but I mean there were nice pieces of information in that slide set, and this was the agenda for these 3 days. So university engagement with businesses. Professor Gabriel's in Professor Gabriel's presentation, there were lots of smaller and bigger examples already, which we have touched on or not beforehand. But I mean, there were lots of these pieces, and your final answer to the last question was that you have to start with something. You get a small grant, you start doing something, you get a bigger project going on with the outside world and so on. So that's how it usually starts. I have only 2 slides because as I said that I try to, depending on how long the other presentations are, I can deal with the schedule because that's my responsibility as well. So as I said, what I said yesterday was about, is collaborative or contract research part of the university strategy, or is the university actively seeking for external partners? It's sort of a fundamental question when it comes to building these collaborations. And if it's supported by the top management, if it's supported by the departments and the deans and all the top management people, then it's easier to do on a researcher level, if you like, or lecturer level. And how does the university strategy link to its current activities and past activities? As I showed you in the official slides of the university, that there are certain innovations and certain commercialized excellent products and services that have been developed by the basic research in the university. So what is the policy and way of thinking in your particular university? How do they see is that when it comes to London Met and the values that you have to contribute to the society? So what is that type of value proposition in your own university? Is it so that you want to give to the external world, outside world? Is it part of it, part of the strategy, part of the policy or policies in the university or not? And then is it included in the previous presentation, how to include that type of activity into education, getting applied type of education, getting experts from the industry to teach, to get a PhD or whatever. And so there's a constant back and forth type of collaboration. So this is what we encourage in this project. And how is it organized in individual universities? Yesterday, my colleague Petteri Sinervo showed an example of our project in Albania, where they wanted us and our other partners to build up a certain centers responsible for collaborating with the outside world. But is it organized somehow one way or the other, or is it based on individual interests? Then, as I said yesterday, many funding organizations, be that local, national, international, like the EU, like Erasmus Plus type of organizations, or I guess Horizon 2020 program, for example, in the EU is a better example, where they gear you, they force you to find industrial partners in order to get the funding for the collaborative type of research. We have the same situation in a national funding with the National Funding Agency, which was it was called TEKES in the past. As I said yesterday, Business Finland it's called nowadays. So you need a research partner and you need an industry partner. And they are mostly funding R&D projects for the industry. But then while doing it, you learn something which in turn you can use in your education. But collaborative or contract research, collaborative research is usually research which is funded by the third party rather than the industry. Or the industry puts some money into it, and then the third party, be that National Funding Agency or EU, throws in their sum of money. Whereas contract research refers more to dedicated industry directly funded projects. So the funding agencies are pushing the universities to work closer with the industries and with the society as a whole. Whereas London Met was a good example in different ways for different degrees and curricula. Then what is the difference between collaborative or contract research? I mean, okay, who gives the funding? As I said, in collaborative research, usually we put some money as a university, then the industry, the companies put some money, and then there's a third party, which is national. We don't have that much local financiers, so National Funding Agency or the EU or United Nations or World Bank or whoever you have there, depending on your project. Then when it comes to discussion about who will own the IP, that's part of the sort of rules of the ball game that the university has to understand. In many of these contract research types of activities, the company wants the IP. If the research results into something with valuable intellectual property, usually they give you as a researcher a contract, or the university, that whatever comes out of this project, the IP is we own it. In collaborative research, it's a bit different ball game. Again, and what is the university strategy or policy in these types of arrangements? Contractual, legal, content-wise, sustainability, etc. What kind of university support do you have in place to help the researchers in order to get collaborative or contract research, or develop the education and all that? I see them all interlinked. So that's why, I mean, I just decided to show you only 2 slides, because everything is in my head, at least, because we have been doing it for a long time. So of course, when I do project like this, I learn things about Indonesia. I will use that in my education, when I'm lecturing, of course. So it goes like that. Then what is again, this sort of a strategic question. What is the research activity in the university at the moment? What is the university? Usually many universities are concentrating on certain areas of science, certain industries, and so on. So how does this collaborative or contract research reflect on the normal research activities of the university? We have a big and long history of medical and life science research, and that's why in the previous slide set I showed a few innovations coming from the life science sector. But then we have other sectors as well. Then there was a simple example, practical PhDs. That was something that Professor Gabriel showed when he talked about practical doctorates in certain fields, where people from the practice come and teach and then do some research and get a PhD out of it. That's I'll put it to the collaborative activity. Then the financiers and universities might want you to network with other companies or collect a group of companies, join forces together with the local or any university, so that it's part of the networking of and linking up companies with similar problems, similar technologies, whatever, and then they might join forces, get funding, and approach the university. Collaborative or contract research, in case of using companies, R&D in the university's research. As I said yesterday, if you have these big companies, we have big pharmaceutical companies in city of Turku. They have big R&D departments. So how to join forces so that some of the inventions or innovations span out from the companies to the university basic research, rather than the other way around. It could be both ways. Then companies taking advantage of universities' infrastructure, facilities, and equipment. Again, later today, after the coffee break, my colleague Petteri Sinervo will have one example of the bioimaging activity that we had, where companies were using, because in many fields, especially for the small and medium-sized companies, they don't have the money, resources to buy expensive equipment, which universities and research facilities have, which are not used 24/7. So how to open up the university for small companies, for example, so that they can use the laboratories, they can use the very, very expensive equipment that the university has paid for. And we have a case on that later today. Research-based consulting, that's part of the collaborative activities. And Petteri Sinervo will have the airport concept case. So Petteri will talk about that. So that's part of the collaborative activity. Then, as I said, the university claims in our case that it's a multidisciplinary and it stresses the multidisciplinarity. In many of these collaborative or contract research activities, you can collect different types of expertise easier than normal inside the university type of research projects. So you can add in different types of expertise, usually more easily than when you do your normal basic science. And then there are other ways of doing cooperation with the external world. These were the examples, and Professor Gabriel gave lots of other examples. And now we will hear examples from Bologna. And then we can have discussions, you can have questions to me or the after Bologna presentation. So please Who do we have? Let me check. Sylvia, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Yes, I'm trying to open my presentation. Okay, do you see my presentation? Can you hear me?
There are noise there.
Yes, I know, but I cannot eliminate it. I hope that you can still hear with sufficient clarity my voice and the presentation, because I'm not able to eliminate the noise from the PC. I'm sorry about that. My name is, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Silvia Vecchi, and as already, and as all the people that you already know, as for example, Alessandra and Andrea yesterday, Chiara and Paola in our meeting, I work in the third mission division of the University of Bologna. So my presentation will provide you with some element of context without repeating context already explained in the presentation of Alexandra, but providing instead of differences some common ground, hopefully. Then I will provide you with objectives. The objectives that we have as university in university business collaboration, and then the strategy we put in place to reach these objectives, some tools we are using, and then how we are organized toward these objectives. So yesterday we talked about the differences, the different industrial ecosystems, different regulatory frameworks, different policies, and of course different recipes. And we said that one size doesn't fit all. Okay, this is true, but we would like to try to find also some common ground. What is the common ground? What are similarities that we can find in different industrial ecosystems, in different areas, in different contexts? The benefits, the motivation, the benefits to businesses, the benefit to universities, the benefit to students, and the benefit to academics. These may be probably the common grounds to understand why and how we collaborate with the companies, with businesses. So. The question is why university business collaboration matters to businesses. What are the benefits to businesses? The first benefit is to identify people, recruit and integrate graduates who fit their needs. So the first motivation, the first benefit for businesses is to find people to recruit. The second benefit is the continuous education, upskilling, competencies and knowledge of current staff, and then they find access to research and innovation, the latest discoveries, knowledge to improve their processes, their products, their services, and their activities. So the university as a source of knowledge and research. And then the contact with startups and spin-off. Many universities have startups and spin-offs, and they are also a source of innovation, of ideas that provide benefits to businesses. And finally, some businesses are very interested in raises brand profile, and the interaction with universities can provide means for employer branding and co-branding strategies and so on. What are the benefits for universities? University business collaboration improves the relevance of teaching because the teaching is more related with the ecosystem and with the needs of the industrial ecosystem. This will, of course, increase employability of graduates. Our students will be more suitable for the needs of the industrial ecosystems. University business cooperation increases the relevance of research because the research can be applied to the society and to industrial products and services. And finally, of course, university business collaboration can provide also funding for research and funding for education. Improve the rate of study and the job competencies because the contact and the company injection in provide to students. This will enhance the job and also this will improve the ability to become an entrepreneur, but not only in the sense of creating their own company, but to be entrepreneurial as approach. And finally, they will get a better understanding of societal challenges and needs. And this will be very useful when they will go outside the university. And finally, the benefit to academics. They have a more informed teaching. The university business collaboration provides them with new insights for research. They will get, of course, research for funding, and they can improve their reputation because also the publications with companies can of course, so they can have more impact for their research results. So yesterday we talked about third mission. Third mission means research, valorization, and exploitation. Third mission means production of public goods, services of a social, education, and cultural nature. Third mission means impact of the university on society. All these society-related activities, third mission-related activities, have some relation with businesses. Businesses may be the target of the third mission activities. They may be the means they can be used to reach the target of the third mission activities, and they may be partners. There are a lot of third mission activities we do better in partnership with companies. So with all this motivation on the background, our university decided to invest on strategic level on university-industry relations to foster the relations with the industrial ecosystem. How? The first time we have a rector delegate for relations with businesses, so a specific policy people with a mission on university business cooperation. And university business cooperation related objectives are in the university strategic plan that was already mentioned yesterday by Alessandra. What are the specific objectives of this investment? First of all, facilitating the creation of institutional, structural, and continuous relationships. What does it mean, institutional? Institutional will mean that it's not a matter of contact between two people, the researcher and the industrial manager. Is a relationship between a institution and the university, an institution. And this is very important to us because when the relations is only between people, people may change appointment, people may change interest, people may go elsewhere. But when the relations is between institutions, the relations stay along the time and can grow along the time. We want to increase not only quantity but quality of collaboration with company. We want that the collaboration is a win-win collaboration, so of benefit for the university and benefit for the industry. We want that the collaboration is a bidirectional exchange. We want to get stimulation, to get input from the companies, and we want to provide input to the companies. So it is a bidirectional exchange. We promote a multidisciplinary approach, not only because we are a multidisciplinary university, of course, but because we think that the main challenges companies have to meet with a multidisciplinary approach, mixing mindsets and competencies from very different sectors. And finally, what we want is expanding and diversifying the opportunities for collaboration. What are these collaboration opportunities? We try with this panoramic to give an overview by collaboration areas. And so let me go through this panoramic. So the first pillar of university business collaboration is research and development. We talk a lot about commissioned research and consultancy. Pasi described their approach on this. We talk about competitive calls at a different level, at the local and also at European and international level. We can collaborate with industry also on PhD. We talk about industrial PhD, corporate executive PhD. Companies may be interested in providing funding for fellowships. They may be interested in the joint research labs, joint infrastructure when industry and university can cooperate with people working in the day-by-day together. And then another collaboration item in the research and development area are, of course, publications. Then the technology transfer pillar. Here we can find joint patenting, of course, licensing, and also brand management, co-branding, and innovation and entrepreneurship. There are a lot of opportunities related to spin-off, startup, for example, participation in share capital, but also less committing, less demanding collaboration activities as open innovation initiative, for example, hackathon, context, makerspace, and other collaboration tools to innovation and entrepreneurship. Collaboration in education. We can have co-planning of degree and master courses. We can involve companies in the stakeholder consultation before to start a new degree, or after a while the degree is running. We consultate with the stakeholders at large, including companies, to get their feedback, to get their inputs to better design the degree. Then we can have company lectures during classes. We can have cases, students working for their cases on a topic defined by company. And then we can have curricular internship. In the pillar of professional training, we can have training courses for company employees, masters for company employees, and summer school and winter school. And finally, job placement or recruiting, depending on the viewpoint. And here, a company can collaborate with the university with the training internships. They can participate to career day and recruiting day that are, let's say, fair events with companies presenting their opportunities and students meeting all the companies one-to-one. And then we can have dedicated jobs events dedicated to a specific sector or to a specific company. Finally, another collaboration area is the corporate social responsibility. Many companies have now get now more awareness on the relevance of this item: sustainability, social innovation, international cooperation, and we have, as a university, our activity, our corporate social responsibility activities, and we can involve companies in our initiatives. But also many companies has their own initiative on corporate social responsibility, and with expertise and with our assets and students, of course. So let's go to the strategy. How to identify industrial partners. We mix two approaches, bottom-up and top-down approach. The top-down drivers are the distinctive areas of the university. The university defined are areas that are for us strategic, and we want to empower. And you can find here Industry 4.0, health and well-being, agriculture and food, sustainability and circular economy, and so on. So the first driver to find collaboration with the industry for us is our strategic areas. The second driver are excellencies and specificity of the ecosystem. Here you can find a pic of the Emilia-Romagna region with all the different area of industrial activities, and of course the most famous are automotive and industrial automation, but also ceramics, textile and clothing, and the food industry, probably the most important outside Italy. And then the third driver is national and innovation policies and initiatives. We work with different mix of top-down and bottom-up approach at regional, national, and international level. And I'm not going through the details because I'm probably running out of time. But here you can find the main item of our approach at the regional, national, and international level. How to engage industrial partners. We identify three main pillars, three main strategy elements. The first one is to provide companies with a single entry point. This will facilitate the communication, will facilitate the expectation alignment. The people working in this entry point provide companies with information on what they can expect from university, what they can get value from, and what is not possible to get from university. So to align expectation. And also we do a kind of opportunities marketing, providing information and providing pros and cons on the different opportunities of collaboration. The second engagement item are long-term partnerships with medium-large companies. We try to engage medium and large companies in long-term initiatives. For example, joint research labs, corporate academies, industrial doctorates, and so on. We also have a strategy targeted to small and medium enterprises. And go through the industrial association, partnership with industrial associations. We provide them with short-term offers, short-term based collaborations based on common needs identified by the association and along different value chains. So what are the, how do we do partnership with big and large companies? We propose multi-annual framework agreements that provide one-off negotiation of the main contractual clauses. These clauses will be inherited by the activation contracts, and the interaction and transaction will be more efficient and quick. Sharing needs, expectations, strategies, and priorities. We identify a coordination committee composed by people from the university and a couple of people from the university and a couple of people from the company that meet periodically to monitor and plan activities and define priorities and objectives. Another item of the and the long-term partnership is the creation of a virtuous circle between different collaboration opportunities. Often you can start with collaboration in education and then shift in collaboration in innovation and then shift to collaboration in recruiting and so on. So with the long-term collaboration, it's very easy to create contaminate different opportunities coming out. And finally, you can have more easily synergy among projects because you put all the project and collaboration on the same table, on the same company and university interaction table. So you can have synergy and collaboration within different departments, both on the university and the industry side, and this is, of course, very much beneficial. And what do we do in the partnership with industrial association? In this case, we define a multi-annual agreement with industrial association where we identify collaboration objectives and action lines that are suitable for small and medium enterprises. For example, thematic workshops, open labs, as already mentioned by Pasi, small medium enterprise needs to get access to advanced research infrastructure and support from the university. And the key of success to open innovation initiatives involving both and startups. As said yesterday, we have a division in the University of Bologna devoted to third mission and corporate relations. And within this division, there is an office, there is a unit, an organizational unit specifically devoted to university business collaboration. It's not the knowledge transfer office, it's the industrial liaison office, let's say. What is the mission of this unit? The main mission is to remove the barriers to university business collaboration. by creating the so-called single entry point for companies. We already described the mission of this entry point, the benefit of this entry point. By guiding the companies in identifying the most functional skills and achieve taking into account the time perspective, the objectives, and also the commitment level also in economic terms. By smoothing the communication in the collaboration, companies know that when they have a problem in the collaboration with research groups, with departments, with different industry structure, they can talk to us and we will try to solve problems and find solution to the collaboration. So we want to create institutional and trust-based relations. The main activities, of course, are consultancy and guidance for all businesses interested in collaborating with the University of Bologna. Promoting and managing, we do promotion and management of framework agreements, both with large companies and industrial associations. And we organize events targeted to businesses on university business collaboration opportunities to explain them, to create awareness on the benefits, pros, and advantages of the university business collaboration. How are we organized? So we have people with a legal background that serve as a horizontal cross-cutting service for all the different activities of the staff of the unit. We have a person devoted to the partnership, the agreement with association and activities related to SMEs. And then we have people working on the company portfolio, the agreement, the framework agreement portfolio by sector: automotive and industrial automation sector, the agri-food sector, the ICT sector, and the energy and environment sector. We have more or less 8 to 10 cooperation agreements with large companies in all these different sectors, and we manage them in all the different stations. The results. We are active since more or less 4 years. And these are the results. Currently, we have 40 ongoing framework agreements with 35 with companies and 5 with associations, and 6 currently under negotiation, 4 with companies and 2 with associations. We get in 2020 32 million of euros, of course, so for sponsored research and consultancy. We have 6 joint research labs with companies, with big companies. Some of them are hosted by the university, some of them are hosted by the company. Finally, we have also 4 corporate academies, tailored for company needs, and many training courses for company employees. The corporate academy are realized in collaboration with one single specific company, so they are company academies for one company. And finally, the team. It's a matter of relations, and these are people that take care of university business relations at the University of Bologna. So, thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. I mean, you summed up pretty nicely Professor Gabriel's and my presentation, actually. I mean, and in nice boxes and nice slides. So that was very good. Thank you. There was some noise in the background. So, I mean, I don't know if hopefully people will mute their mics when there's a presentation going on. Any comments now, or should we have that short 5-minute coffee break now? Sylvia, could you turn off the share screen? Oh, thank you. So, any comments, questions now? There was some comment in the chat. I guess it was targeted to Professor Gabriel. That please explain us later in this session. I'd like my fellow young lecturers to hear it directly from you. Your talk has greater impact than mine. Thank you, Professor Gabriel. I guess that was targeted to Professor Gabriel. But I guess we have a short break now. We come back in say 5 minutes and continue, and then Professor Gabriel can answer to the question, and then we hopefully have a discussion at the end of all the presentations and questions and comments. So 5 minutes. See you in 5 minutes. And Sylvia, thank you again for the great presentation.
You're welcome. See you soon.
Okay, let's wait for a short while. Now there's not the noise in the background. There was some noise in the background during Sylvia's presentation, but it might be the lines. And hopefully we will get a better noise quality for the next hour that we have left. We have lots of people still fetching the coffee, and that's understandable. So now if we continue, if it's okay for you, we have 3 presentations, 3 cases dealing with university engagement with business. There has been all kinds of examples already presented, and now we have 3 cases, 2 coming from our university by my colleague Petteri Sinervo, and the third one comes from the Bologna. And then hopefully we have some time for discussion. We have 1 hour, so 15 minutes plus, I guess, the presentations, if it's fine with you. And then we wrap up today's discussion, and once, if you have any questions, then we have a short discussion. But okay, Petteri, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pasi. Hopefully I now have the right slides.
Looks good.
I'm presenting a case called airport concepts, and that falls in the category of research-based consulting in a way. Research-based consulting for me means at least that there is a company or some other organization or group of organizations who have some problem or a issue they want to address, and to do that requires some research and then send some recommendations based on the research findings. And like Sylvia earlier said, these kind of projects or activities, they need to be beneficial also for the universities. And this research-based consulting can be a way of raising money for other purposes, so that university does it in a market-based or market-priced fees and collects money and then can use it for other purposes. But it can be also a collaborative project like this was, and then the benefits are something else than money. And for example, in this case, the benefits for us were that we get quite a number of new contacts from the companies, which we then could use for in other projects or inviting visiting lecturers or something like that. And in addition, we produced 4 publications out of this, and one of those was a peer-reviewed journal article in a journal. And then in addition, by the way, one student did his master's thesis in this project. But going into details, I try to be brief so that we can have time for discussions later. The idea for this project came when this building was built. This is the Terminal 5 at the Heathrow Airport in London. Several Finnish companies noticed that, or they noticed that there are several Finnish companies operating in this site, also the construction, but also for the services inside the terminal and then systems inside the terminal. So they thought that maybe there might be some possibilities for cooperation. So in a way of entrepreneurial Schumpeterian way of thinking, that was the opportunity recognition. And these companies, they addressed Vantaa Innovation Institute, which is a company owned by the town of Vantaa. Vantaa is the place where the main airport of Finland is located. It's neighboring Helsinki. And of course, the town of Vantaa has an interest of developing this ecosystem around the airport. And they needed a research partner, and we were approached, and we decided to go on with this project, thinking at how could these companies benefit for mutual cooperation. So the idea was that how to combine and complement the services and products of the companies who are participating, because they had a common customer, the airport operators and airport developers. So there were a number of workshops finding out what kind of products and services they were providing and how. Marketing materials, we did marketing research, finding out at what kind of reconstruction is going on mainly in the European airfields, and what kind of totally new airport construction plans there were. We didn't, but we kind of observed that the companies wrote joint technical specification for their products and white papers. We built some sales tools. For example, one was a calculator that how much does it cost as a lost income for airports if they are closed down because of the bad weather, because of the snow, for example. And then there was a joint expos and trade fairs, and then of course some negotiations that how this cooperation could be organized. The outcome was 3 different bundles, we call them, so that there is a certain companies operating together, and they could have a bundle of products and services which could be provided for the airport operators as such. One was airside solutions, which meant the services, security systems, signs and electronic tables and signs inside the airport. It meant then there was a lighting and the fragile construction needed nearby the runways, so that with the one negotiations, the operator could get several of their problems or their service providers addressed. And then one was the winter condition solution, so that removing ice and snow from the airfields, and you can understand that the Finns have some understanding of how to handle with the snow and ice. So it included 3-stage plows, for example, de-icing stuff and the trucks and systems to use that or spread that de-icing stuff. It meant sensors to measure weather. It means sensors to measure the friction, but it also meant how to organize and handle this operation. That was actually the most successful of these bundles. It was a really complete system for the airport operators. Now some observations for this project. It was in a way, very easy project because all the participating companies had a clear joint goals and a joint customer whom they were addressing. Of course, some of these companies were providing their products nearly only to airports. For some others, it was only one of their customers and maybe a small one. But anyway, they had a common customer. They had a clear benefits for this cooperation. And it could create a coherent product bundles, or in the case also a couple of products only. Providing research data in this was rather critical because we could then give the companies a clear picture of what is the competition situation in different countries or airfields, and also that what kind of data that they could show their potential customers that using these bundles or using their products would benefit the airport operator. However, there were some challenges. Creating trust between these companies was one of them, because in this process they had to open their trade secrets to each other to some extent, and of course that is always a sensitive issue and created or needed some non-disclosure agreements among other things, and some other agreements so that this cooperation could be justified, and also that there is limitations for this kind of cooperation. Companies have different goals. They might have different market targets in their market areas, and creating those bundles was not without problems. And as such, I don't think that they have been very successful. But what has been successful is that these companies, one or two together, are now addressing when they are addressing the customers, they can also, or they will provide information about the products the others are providing. So in that sense, it's making the marketing and sales work easier for all of them. And then the good thing was that this ended up to that a cluster called Airport Cluster Finland Association was formed, so that the companies still operate and they still think about the future cooperation possibilities. And it's still ongoing. And this actually ends up my short presentation on this subject. Matti, what do you think?
Thank you.
Shall I move on to the next one immediately, or?
Yeah, I guess we'll get them in. I mean, you can continue with the next slide set, and then we have the Bologna example, and then we have hopefully time for discussion and wrapping up the whole day. So
okay, this was 12 minutes, so I'll try to be as short in the next one.
Okay, good.
Okay, my second case is a different one, relates to using universities' infrastructure more efficiently. While the airport concept was initiated by the companies, the idea came from them. This was a need for the university itself to explore this possibility. The idea behind was that how to utilize the bioimaging infrastructure we have. And the goals were to increase the research collaboration with companies and international universities, and advance regional development and gain income also. And targeting companies mainly in the Nordic countries, but also the rest of the Europe, and then the researchers and universities also mainly in the Europe. And we have to keep in mind that while university has this infrastructure, we have some larger biotech companies in Turku region. So they also have some equipment that university lacks. So it's in that way, the idea was also to investigate that is there a possibility for university to get access to those equipment the companies have. But there are a lot of small companies in this area, in the biotech companies in Turku area, and it was one of the key target groups was to look at them and how could they use either in the joint research projects, or then we could only sell the time to use this equipment. This was done jointly with our neighboring university, the Swedish-speaking Åbo Academy, because we have a joint biotech center in Turku. And the more precise goals were to find out the needs and interests of the companies, and not only the use of equipment, but also the know-how we could sell in connection with the equipment time, and then what services the regional companies could provide to us, and find out the possibilities for international research collaboration, and finally to draft a business plan, how to use this infrastructure and how to utilize our know-how. Execution was such that we did quite a large market scouting for the potential Finnish and Nordic customers, and for this was BioSelect Limited, which is a company operating in Turku on this field, and they did a great job of scouting these companies. And we also went to Europe and benchmarked a couple of the bioimaging centers there, and how are they operating, and what kind of cooperative systems they have in place. We did some competition check that against whom we are competing, and then drafted the business plan using the business model canvas, which you all can find from internet, but it's a relatively good tool because it reveals all those issues you have to go through in a project like this, looking at the key partners and key resources, activities, then also the customer side, that how to handle the customer relationship, how do you reach them, and what are the key segments you are addressing, and then looking at the money, of course, costs and revenues. Conclusions were that the home markets were clearly the Nordics, Central Europe as a outer limit, research organizations on the biofield, in addition to the potential companies, and some additional sales prospects from the know-how sales. Organizational wise, the customer relationship manager, maybe if the operation or the activity gets larger, then more than one is needed. Pharmaceutical development appears to be one of the most important industries and the first target market. And we planted the value propositions that there is a service packages for each segment, and they are carefully describe what kind of services and know-how does they include, and that we can scale our operation from imaging one atom to full anatomy of a model. Cost efficient, high quality, and then also starting to build an brand image for Turku Bioimaging. Now, the Turku Bioimaging started to pursue this business plan, and it has proceeded gradually, not in the space as fast as we hoped, but there is a reason for that, because there was an unexpected well, not only because of this project, but it was at the time European Union decided that they will establish a European network of bioimaging facilities, and they will select one center to be the headquarters, the main node for this. And Turku applied for this, and the information we had gathered and the contacts we had gathered in this project greatly helped to do this application, and finally we gained that position. And because this activity requires resources, and it's a very important for the international cooperative research, then this addressing market-based customers has not gained that much resources yet, but it's still there, and we are still operating with the companies as well. And I believe this was my last slide for this. Yes.
Thank you very much, Petteri. You were fast.
I said that I will be brief. Hopefully, okay. I wasn't too brief, but
no. we have time. I hope we have time for comments and discussion after the Paola Motetti presentation from Bologna. Please.
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. I will try to share the screen. Hope you see the presentation now. Let me know.
Yes, clear.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Paola Motetti. I work with Silvia Vecchi, who gives her presentation just before the coffee break. And I will talk about the case study for Unibo that is on Corporate Academy. As my colleague Silvia says, there are many types of collaboration that can be useful to carry on with between university and industry. And I will talk about a particular case that is on long life learning. So in this type of collaboration, we as university have a strict connection with the human resource area of the industry. And these are the three most important points that can help us to with the relation with industries, talking about corporate education. So through this instrument, we can expand the opportunities for collaboration with companies that normally in the past were related above all with the research and consultancy. In this case, we are getting inside the enterprise and touching different areas and different employee, different pillar division of the enterprise. We can consolidate relationships with businesses, integrating and strengthening support services. And also we can complete the training offer of the university with the personalized professional training project. Which was the situation in 2019. That is the year that we started thinking about a different way to approach corporate education. There were many kind of relationships and of contract in the department of the university, and we realized that every professor has his personal way to collaborate with the industries in this kind of collaboration. Sometimes they also have personal contracts. So that was strange for us because the professor work as independent professionist and not like alma mater, the university approach in education. So what we do, what we have done is a market analysis on the cases. Then we try to design a internal process that could be followed by colleagues and professors to approach the problem. And then we ask for the governance approval on our vision on the subject. That was very important because that enable us to have a authority through professor and give them the vision that was not only an administrative vision, but also a governance vision on the new approach. And this year we are receiving and we see the first realization and the first reaction to our new process, and we find that the results are good. There is a centralized information of what is going on in the university, and also we see that the standard contracts we prepare are successfully implemented by the university and by the business collaboration we use. Which are these two main processes that we find were the best one to start this new activity? On one side, we talk about corporate academy. So a format that foresee a medium-term training roadmap from 1 to 3 years long, which involves the project and realization of several training courses inside this roadmap. And those courses are, in our vision, repeatable and always co-designed with the company staff, both technicians and human resources staff. This type of collaboration foresee the release of university educational credit on the training we carry on, and help the industry to invest in staff training by equipping itself with a tool aimed to update and integrate the internal skills of the industry, help the industry to broaden knowledge in new sectors, So if the industry is going on through a process of innovation that comprehends a new sector, new market sector, that could be an advantage, and also on new technological fields. Last goal of the industry is to speed up professional growth, involving different target of personnel and different functions and level of management inside the industry. On the other hand, we have shorter training on demand. That's a specific training on a specific team, single courses that usually has a short duration and are commissioned by the university, and are constructed and project by the university. The industry goal in this kind of training is to bridge specific skills gaps of the employees. And is this kind of training is typically dedicated to a single target of staff. So while in the corporate academy, we have a broad approach and a broad vision of the industry, in this short training, we are going to work on a specific need. To get in the deep of the corporate academy approach and content, in this kind of format, the different courses carried out with the academy may have different employees target, as I said before, and respond to different needs in accordance with the business strategy. Some examples are upskilling, reskilling of the employees, promote professional growth and careers path, create synergies between different departments, create alignment and integration paths for new hires. That was very important in our first cases. And then talent retention and reduction in turnover. In many cases, this kind of training foresee the involvement in the faculty of companies' employees and external staff to complete the faculty competencies. On the other side, short training on demand is tailored on the enterprise's need and thought to be one-off basis project. So it's designed to have a single target of staff and respond to a specific training need, which may be upskilling or reskilling, as in the case before, or in some cases, but are not so numerous, alignment and integration of new hires. Just to see the two, one in the same slide. So I repeat, for corporate academy is important the involvement of different university and research institute to guarantee a complete faculty and to guarantee that this faculty can cover the education path we co-design with the industries. That is a medium-long path. Is multi-target and foresee the release of higher education credit. On the other side, we have short training, one single target, one single goal, only needed once, and totally designed by the university. This is the case I would like to talk about you, and is an example of an academy that was designed by the University of Bologna in collaboration with the University of Modena e Reggio, that is another university near us in the region. And the industry involved was high performance engineering. That is an industry devoted to give support above all for the automotive sector, but also for other industry who need an external engineer consultants. And we find that this case study very successful because was the first one, but empowered the industry to train a great number of employees on different teams. And the pillar of this academy were above all three. So there was the training on the job, because the academy was in the building of the industry. You see in the photo the container that was adapted to be the site for the education. And there were foreseen multidisciplinary paths and specific class for departments. Above all, the trainees were first hire employee and ex-students of the University of Bologna. And the training promotes the professional growth, the career path of those young engineering, allowing the achievement of a level of seniority. And there were also foreseen some specific courses on soft skill dedicated to the manager, who were devoted to the coordination of those young engineering. That was a way to accelerate the acquisition of new, advanced, and transversal skill in accordance, in complete accordance with the business strategy. So there was a great collaboration between the faculty and the governance of the industry and all the technicians of the industry. And we find out that the internal job rotation was encouraged by this approach. And there were different cases of synergy between departments that were fostered by this multidisciplinary approach on the corporate education. I would finish and give space for question for me and for Petteri.
Thank you very much for the presentation. So, I mean, this concludes nicely, or this sort of, when Professor Gabriel started the presentation today, and now you ended, and you talked about similar but different issues. But I mean, this was sort of a coming around feeling for me. Okay, any questions from any of today's presenters? And let me remind you, I mean, in the chat, there's the form that needs to be addressed and filled. That's about, we are collecting information about the training and your comments and development suggestions. So there's, Irmina has put it like 4 times already there today, which is good. So please fill in that form.
That's for the participation actually only.
Yeah. Okay, there's at least one hand.
Yes, can I have a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for the nice presentation for all of you. I just like to talk about our university. I'm from ITK, Institute Teknologi Kalimantan, which is a young university, 7 years old university. But the university is run by the industry. So we have some collaborations with industry at the moment, but we need to accelerate the collaboration between the industries. It is possible if we have, for example, another training from you or other university, like meet with our university, with our industry partner to like to make research roadmap, for example, for 1 and 3 years research roadmap, and also activity for the collaboration itself. But we only have undergraduate students. We haven't have a postgraduate student at the moment. So what should we do for these conditions? Thank you.
Who would like to answer?
Maybe you should. Within this project, I don't think that we have possibilities to organize university-specific sessions, but these are general sessions. So in a way of getting someone to assist of designing or thinking of the action plan, how to proceed, that I have difficulties to think of because I don't know the local environment. But I wonder if Pasi have something to add here.
No, I mean, because as you said, I mean, we could organize this type of a sort of a discussion type of Zoom, but that's more or less what we can do at the moment, where we can, I mean, you could show the presentations and materials from these 3-day sessions to the industry partners and explain what we have, I mean, the cases and stuff. That could be something. And if there's something specific that needs to be done, then we could organize something. But as Petteri said, I mean, we cannot, and we are not in a position to because we don't know the exact situation in each of the partner universities outside Europe. So it's at least I feel that it's too difficult.
Yeah, and one thing, of course, always in these cases are that one sits down with the industry partner or partners and discusses and asks what they expect, what they want to have, and then thinking that does the university has the know-how and resources to provide that. Then you can, after that, you can think how you are going to do it.
Yeah, that was a good answer. Any other questions?
Yes, please, Pasi.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Pasi. So I am from the University of Mataram or Universitas Mataram in Lombok, Indonesia. And first of all, I want to inform that our university is a small university and we must work with the primary industry like industrial or food or I mean agricultural product processing. But for us here, it's very difficult to engage with the business or with the corporation. I mean with enterprises outside the university. Like the case that you present or all of you presented today, it looks like it's very easy for you in Europe to engage with the business enterprises in Europe. But here, our university, especially for the state university like us here, it is very difficult to to engage with the business, especially for what is like a business need our product or technology, because most of our technology that produced by our research here is not in the high level of technological readiness level. My question is there a special division or special department that is in charge with making or maybe with organizing business engagement with your university? Is there a special division or special department that in charge in organizing the engagement with the enterprises? And
okay,
the second one, I want to ask you, is it common in Europe that university also have business enterprises that can generate income for the university?
Pasi, may I shortly answer for the University of Turku?
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have a specialized division or office which would handle all the industry or company relations. It's rather the researchers themselves who knows their field of business or their field of science and the companies operating there, and they have the contacts. But we have an office which supports vitally in order to get this cooperation going, and especially the collaborative research, which Pasi mentioned earlier. We rely on that collaborative research, which not only with the companies but the public organizations as well. University's budget is about 165 million euros, and 100 million of that comes from external sources, mainly from the collaborative projects. So without those, we would be lost. So we need it. We have to raise 100 million each year, and it's a duty for all the researchers to be active, or at least keep their eyes open that we can exploit the external possibilities to get research and other projects going. And then we have a support from them for them to apply the money, making the contracts, thinking of the IPRs, and to answer your other question, that do we have companies that produce money for us? Well, I hope that we would have more of those. We do have companies in which the university stakeholder, typically a minority shareholder. Myself was yesterday evening in one of the general meetings of such companies, which I actually will put on the chat, their website, which is a recent spin-off of our companies. Many of them don't really produce money, and that is not the primary idea of university going. Of course, we wish to get monetary gain as well, but it's also that if we have some invention which is useful and can be used and benefit the society, we can either commercialize it through the companies or license it, or then we can also kind of let the public sector or the third sector to use it, because it's university's job is not to make money. Our job is to make impact on the society, to benefit the society. And these companies is one way of doing it, and giving new tools for the public sector, third sector is another one.
Yeah, and if I continue from what Petteri said, from the University of Turku side, as I said earlier, I mean, there are different ways of. I commented on it today as well. Different ways of doing that collaboration. But you have to start from something, and because now, as I presented our university earlier today, I mean, we have 100 years of history. So there has been links popping up, coming up. There have been people in the past, deans and professors and researchers, who have had contacts, and there are, in certain sectors, there are very, very long tradition to collaborate, like medicine, drug development, life science. And in other fields of science, there's not that much history. But I mean, you build on something, you start having a short project, whatever, and then you continue when you build the trust, and then you can move further. But as Petteri said, we rely on, or we need the external funding, and we have certain units that are more active in trying to find that type of finance. But in every department, they try to collect external funding. So it's more or less everybody's job. But the good thing is that there's a support people, as Petteri said, that, I mean, he's one of the lawyers who can deal with the contracts, which I know nothing about. So, I mean, the support services are there to assist the departments in their pursuing external funding. So but no such organization where, I mean, there are examples in Europe in universities where there is a dedicated organization to do that. And as I said yesterday, at more or less in the future, the universities are thinking of getting income through these licensing agreements and companies that they are shareholders. But that's more usual in the US at the moment. And in the UK, in certain universities, there's very active activity in that, so that they would license stuff, license the research findings, and gain money from the private sector, if you like. But it's a relatively new thing in Finland, because, I mean, the law was against it in Finland a few years back. It has changed the university laws. But it's I don't know if we answered to your question. What do you think? What's the situation in Bologna or in London Met in this regard?
Yes, we in Bologna, as my colleague Silvia Vecchi tried to share with you in her presentation, decided 3-4 years ago to have a specific office in charge of collaboration with the industry. So we are 5-6 person in staff, and we have that mission. But of course, our university has large number, so it's more easy for us to dedicate staff to those activities. And beside our office that is in some way an access point for industry to get in touch with the university, we have other offices dedicated to knowledge transfer, to spin-off, to startup, so to entrepreneurial activities, like we explained in the first training of SMART. That is due to our large number of staff. We are nearly 3,000 people working in administrative area of the University of Bologna. So a very different situation. But I think that working on the relation that also in your university I beg are between professor and industry. So working on those link, you can build a strategy, and trying to centralize information to get in touch with the reference of the industries, through which you can talk about other opportunities. So trying to start from personal relationship between professor and industry and modify that relation, trying to transform it in a relation between the university and the industry. That's the way we worked in the past, and the way in which we realized some new opportunity. I don't know if my colleagues want to add something to this.
Yeah, and I would like to add that, I mean, how I see it is that we need the content. I mean, we need the support organization. That there I am completely with you. But then the other thing is that we need the content. I mean, the person who understands the content when it comes to collaboration with the industry. And that is usually, I mean, these are the researchers and professors. So it's a combination of support expertise and content, contextual understanding, because the industry is interested in the content, or be that technology, be that whatever. What about London Met?
Can I add something related to that, Pasi? So,
okay, and then
yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, if I got from your explanations and from your answers, that is, it is work for university that have age over 100 years, like yours university. It's already well known by other industries. So, like you said, that is culture for you to work together with the industries. But do you have any example in Europe that's the new university, or maybe the young university, that's the age of the university less than 40 years, can work with the industry in Europe?
Yes.
Okay, John, if you, because I mean, Bologna cannot answer. They've been there for 1,000 years. So, I mean, they have the tradition and history. Professor Gabriel, please.
Sure. So yes, I mean, I understand completely the question, and the point behind the question is when we give these kinds of presentations, it's like we're giving you a cake that's already made, but what you want to know is how it was made. What are what are the ingredients, and how can you put it together to make something? And that does call for a discussion of history, and you know, when you've got a history of several centuries, that's even more challenging than for new universities, younger universities like your own. I mean, I think the broad point though that's been made by colleagues from Turku and Bologna is that you have to start somewhere. So my suggestion is that you would start with an area of the university curricula where you have some contacts with industry. It might be that one of your graduates or your alumni are working in that sector. That will give you a way into a conversation. It would also be an opportunity for you to talk to your graduates who are currently working and to ask them to reflect on the degrees that they took, to talk about the kind of experience they had as students of your university, and how would they maybe design a course that was potentially more relevant to the work they're doing now in their professional setting. So you could begin to develop a conversation with your graduates to talk about how the curriculum could be adapted and modified to make it more ready for students to go straight into those industries. And then I think those conversations with industry should be, what can we do? What can we do to support your efforts in your industries? How can the university make a difference, a positive difference to your sector or your industry. Start small. Don't expect to have the cake ready made. It's something that takes time, and those relationships take time. So we have a unit that's responsible, our accelerator unit, for those relationships with business. But actually, the most effective relationships are built by individual departments working with individual sectors based on individual relationships, often graduates who are working in those sectors. So I would start somewhere like that and think about the ways in which you can build a different kind of relationship that grows and evolves over time.
Okay,
thank you. And that's something that, I mean, we have tried to, when we planned for these 3-day sessions, to give different types of hints or not suggestions, but I mean examples where, I mean, as Professor Gabriel said, that I mean, you have to start somewhere, but I mean, then there are different ways of getting these companies or industries involved, depending on what you want. Why do you want to get these certain companies involved in your activities? But it's a long-term process, and that is, as I mean, that the question was very, very relevant, because I mean, as I said, I mean, Bologna almost 1,000 years old. I mean, they have the tradition, and it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, when you have time to build something for 1,000 years. It's the same case with Oxford or Cambridge or MIT or Stanford in the US, that the companies approach them rather than the universities. They don't have to do lots of marketing in order to do anything. And the COVID-19 medicine developed in Oxford University, I mean, that was a good example that they joined forces fast, because the drug development company and the university had the resources and know-how already, and they had older connections. But I mean, we try to give you these simple cases type of things, so that if you could get ideas from these cases and examples, because it's and again, things are different in Indonesia than in Europe. And it's again, I mean, you have so many islands there. Yeah. So the situation in different parts of Indonesia is different. So that's why, I mean, you have to come up with sort of solutions that are suitable for you, for your environment, for your context, and start from there. But there's no quick fix. There's no magic solution. There's no let's copy MIT activities, because it doesn't work. It wouldn't work in our case. So it's I don't know. I mean, it's a building process, and that's I guess the whole 3 days that's something that we mention over and over again. And tomorrow, if I look at the program for tomorrow, we are ending up today shortly. So it's again, we have examples of or models, but they are more or less sort of examples, and you can try to find certain elements or certain parts of these cases that could be suitable, or you could something that you could try in your own environment, and so sort of a building blocks. Or I mean, and Professor Gabriel's, I mean, the cake example was a good one. That yeah, okay, excellent cake in the University of Bologna, but what are the ingredients, and how did you make it happen? Yeah. So it's so these sort of a pieces of a puzzle is something that we want to achieve in this 3-day intensive session, hopefully. But that's my opinion.
Can I suggest something, Pasi?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for these 2 days, we have very good presentations and very good materials from lecturers or professors in Europe. But is it possible for us, maybe you invite people from company in Europe, people from company that give us some materials, why they interested in working with the university. So so we can maybe
di sini.
maybe we can
Yang ditetapkan tahun yang ditetapkan.
Sorry, Bu Putu.
Sorry.
That was a good point, and I hope that when you fill in the document that Dr. Irmina is asking in the chat, I mean,
yeah. So we can we can have material from two sides. One side from universities and other side from the company. It is good from the universities, very, very good. So
that
maybe it will be compared.
And please write that feedback into the form, and we can, because we will have these sessions later on again.
Yeah, maybe not now, maybe for the other
we
training.
will try to find these companies and these examples from the other side of the fence, if you like. And that was a very good point, that now we are presenting from the university perspective, more or less. Of course, we will talk about the other side as well, but then get cases and company voices, if you like. But that was a very good comment and feedback for us for this project.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, or will we continue tomorrow then? It's been an intensive set again.
One question, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Putu from Udayana University, Bali. So it is a great time for me, to learn a new perspective how to build collaborative experience activities between the expert coming from universities and the industry to share a mutual benefit to every party. So I would like to know, as far as I know, there are at least two kind of starting point of the collaboration. The first one is when we start from the zero, what we call it, the zero point. So we develop basic research and then develop and we get an invention and we move forward to the commercialization stage. And the second one is we start from maybe the scientists already got the result and then develop the output in the commercialization process with the business. So according to your experience, is there optimum formula to share the benefit coming from the cooperation, the commercialization of the invention between the parties? Maybe 50-50 or maybe some proportion depending on the kind and the characteristic or maybe the states of the collaboration.
I guess it depends. I mean, it's a case-by-case situation. I mean, in the chat, there's the example of a spin-off company from our university that's based on certain research. But it depends. I mean, if you come up with something in the field of developing medical drug, that takes usually 10 years. That costs €1 billion. And it's a long way compared to if you come up with a app for your iPhone, which could be a bit completely different different type of an invention. So it's a case by case situation, and so there's no, I don't know any sort of a formula. Usually in our case the university decides if they want to be stakeholders, minority stakeholders usually, as Petteri said. But then in many cases they will give the IP back to the researchers, so that if they want to pursue it, or the university can license the technology, and that's another case again. So there are different ways.
Pasi, I will address that tomorrow, actually.
Yeah,
I will address that issue tomorrow.
So you will come back to that. Very good. So
I think we can stop now, Pasi.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can stop now for second day training.
Okay, so I thank you all of the presentations and your participation, and we will come back to this table, if you like, tomorrow at the same time. So see you. Bye.
Thank you for.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we leave now?
Boleh meninggalkan meeting, Bapak Ibu. Silakan. Halo, Pak Roto. Boleh. Kalau mau meninggalkan meeting, ini soalnya live streamingnya agak lambat, jadi saya
betul.
Live streamingnya berakhir. Jadi sengaja saya rekam lewat live streaming biar bisa disetel lagi.
Siap. Terus kelihatan seger.
Untuk sumringah. Padahal seharian ya Pak. Tadi kuliah 2 terus tambah 3 jam. Capek saja nih. Tapi
nggak kelihatan capek.
Berjalan dengan Pak Mahsus. Selamat malam Pak.
Malam Pak Mahsus.
Ya, materinya sudah saya kirim lewat WAG. Saya tadi screenshot gitu kalau yang ini. Tapi untuk link live streaming bisa, mumpung belum saya tutup itu ada linknya di atas. Nah ini saya sengaja nunggu itu loh live streamingnya selesai. Jadi live streamingnya masih agak lambat karena koneksinya nggak bagus. Jadi sekarang pasti masih ngomong di live streamingnya. Bentar lagi lah. Ya. Jadi sudah saya rekam.
Recordnya dimatikan aja recordnya sekarang. Sudah.
Yang mana?
Ini masih live. Ya recordnya dimatikan.
Iya.
Nanti masuk live streaming nanti.
Oke.
Ini ada rapat sebentar.
Malam Pak Idris. Apa kabar?
Malam Pak Idris. Boleh silahkan meninggalkan tempat.
Matur nuwun
ini ya.
Matur nuwun.
Terima kasih. Ya, sampai besok. Sebenarnya Pak Surya itu loh Pak, ikut Pak untuk ini transfer office itu loh.
Ini tadi kan materi tentang TTO hari ini.
Iya, makanya. Jadi itu Pak Surya, tapi katanya banyak jadi nggak bisa ini, nggak bisa. Iya. Oke. Sudah, berarti.
Bareng-bareng.
Ya, monggo. Silahkan meninggalkan.
Izin tadi gabung terakhir.
Kenapa Pak?
Kuliahnya tumbuk-tumbuk, baru iso gabung terakhir.
Oh iya. Besok masih ada ya Pak? Besok masih ada lagi. Pak Surya Pak, tolong itu babnya isinya transfer teknologi itu loh.
Iya.
Makasih ya Pak.
Gitu.
Selamat
Monggo Pak
sore.
Idris. Boleh Pak Idris, boleh meninggalkan. Saya nunggu ini Pak, live streamingnya biar selesai. Sampai pasti selesai ngomong. Jadi ini masih, oh Pak Idris di mute jadi tidak dengar. Ini masih, iya.
Mau tanya sedikit, Prof.
Apa tanya apa? Suaranya kok eko ya Pak?
Nah,
Iya.
ini
Apa?
saya pakai di tempat saya laptopnya nggak tahu ini tadi suaranya agak trouble gitu. Tapi
Loh, ini di mute tapi kok bisa keluar suaranya ya Pak?
ya karena saya pakai laptopnya Mbak Ida tak jejerkan gitu loh.
Oh gitu.
Yeah.
Terus gimana?
Ini, Prof, mau tanya, besok Kamis, hari Kamis, kira-kira ada rencana ada pertemuan buatan sih, Prof?
Botan, sudah 3 hari kayak gini, istirahat loh.
Betul, artinya gini, kalau memang nggak ada pertemuan, saya tuh kemudian mau ada acara kan bisa tak jadwalkan gitu loh.
Iya boleh.
Tapi kalau memang ada ya.
Enggak, ini setelah 3 hari training kita istirahat dulu lah, hari Kamis ya. Jadi enggak inilah, enggak. Ya mesti capek Pak, sampai sore sampai malam gini kok.
Iya.
Bisa sampai Kamis lagi, enggak ah.
Saya ini masih di kampus ini Prof, belum pulang dari tadi.
Oh, saya kan enggak pernah ke kampus Pak.
Oh gitu nggih.
Iya. Loh Pak Idris sudah divaksin?
Belum Prof, kan milenial, belum vaksin.
Oh iya sih, saya sudah senior soalnya. Loh Pak, tempat saya sudah hampir semua loh Pak divaksin dosen dan itu apa tendik.
Kalau di Undip urut. Urut sepuh.
Enggak, kan ya yang sepuh sudah duluan Februari tanggal 28. Terus yang mulai 8 Maret itu kok 8 sih 15. Mulai 15 Maret itu Pak, itu semua dosen dan tendik yang di bawah lansia.
Oh. Kami baru sampai urutan usia 58 59.
Oh. Nah, kalau di ITS Pak semua total tendik dan dosen kan 2.110 kalau enggak salah. Nah, itu ini daftar-daftar gitu. Jadi yang kemarin itu vaksin tuh Jumat 600, Sabtu 500.
Itu yang vaksin lewat ITS atau di luar ITS?
Di ITS, di Geraha ITS.
Sama kami juga di Undip, di rumah sakitnya.
Yang koordinir ITS kerjasama dengan rumah sakit haji.
Oh nggak ada.
Nah,
kami
terus, itu pegawainya yang rumah sakit haji itu jadi ada Geraha ITS tuh Pak yang tempatnya manten itu ya gede itu diatur buat vaksin. Jadi sehari itu berjalan 600 atau 500 orang mulai Jumat kemarin. Ya ini mungkin sudah selesai yang pertama ya. Yang pertama vaksin pertama sudah selesai paling.
Prof udah 2 kali Prof?
Belum. Nanti saya yang pertama kemarin 26, nanti yang kedua 23 sudah dijadwal.
26 apa?
Kemarin 26 Maret saya.
26 Maret.
Iya.
Terus yang keduanya?
Yang kedua 23 April.
Kok lama nggih, Prof? Itu batasnya itu saya tanya dokter tadi siang itu saya ketemu kepala dinas kesehatan itu nggak boleh lebih dari 28 hari antara vaksin.
26 sampai 23 lah pas 28, Pak.
Nah, bagusnya itu sebelum 28 hari gitu loh.
Nah, nggak tahu kok jadwalnya.
Intervalnya itu kalau yang Sinovac itu 2 minggu. Kalau yang yang Astra itu 3 bulan. Yang pertama dengan yang kedua itu 3 bulan. Nah, kalau yang ini masih Sinovac itu idealnya 2 minggu.
Nggak tahu saya apa. Jadi masih ini sih. Sampai 23 berarti 28 hari tuh.
Atau mungkin ditanyakan Prof, barangkali salah tanggal atau
sudah
ini kan
sudah di WA, sudah diumumkan, sudah di diberitahu di beberapa ini. Katanya emang 23. Nggak tahu apa jenis vaksinnya ya.
Oh mungkin ya. Tadi infonya saya dari ini dokter kepala dinas kesehatan pas ketemu itu, dia jelasin itu bla 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 gitu. Nah itu saya tanya, kalau misalnya ada orang karena sesuatu hal tidak sekedar lupa mungkin karena kondisinya dan seterusnya sudah pertama terus ini lebih dari itu gimana gitu? Wah itu dia harus berhenti dulu terus diulang katanya.
Ya ampun.
Wah kalau diulang kan berarti balik ke satu lagi gitu kan?
Iya, itu seperti itu Pak. Kalau sudah sakit, pernah sakit lebih dari 3 bulan itu harus divaksin. Sakit sembuh. Berarti nggak bisa ini ya selamanya ya. Ini.
Nah itu makanya.
Bahaya
Terus juga
berarti.
Beberapa orang itu ternyata terkendala nggak bisa vaksin gara-gara ini
tekanan darah.
Ya pas divaksin itu mungkin karena psikis tensinya tinggi.
Ya ada yang 170 nggak boleh.
Sebentar saya tak nyoba ini ya.
Ada yang ini juga Pak, batuk-batuk juga nggak boleh.
Ya.
Suaranya kok eko kenapa ya Pak Idris?
Halo, suara saya muncul nggak, Prof?
Eko tapi ada gemanya. Oh sekarang enggak, Sekarang enggak Pak. Cepat bicara Pak Idris, bicara. Pak Idris bicara supaya terdengar. Oh, suara saya yang terdengar.
Nah, ini muncul nggak, Prof?
Enggak.
Waduh, ada apa ini? Mungkin nanti
Ya,
ini mungkin kesel.
Ya, Kak, ini enggak muncul.
Karena dari jam sebelum itu kan ada ujian skripsi.
Saya ya kuliah tadi.
Terus Iya. Tadi saya sempat ini kelempar keluar itu karena saya lupa nggak ngecas begitu. Loh habis. Wah kan tak lepas gitu kan. Karena kalau dicas terus kan baterainya nggak kuat. Jadi idealnya kan kalau penuh dilepas. Nah, kebablasan lepas ngikutin itu tadi presentasinya. Loh, lah kok habis mak celing, aduh gitu. Ya sudah.
Tadi seneng loh pasti tak stop tadi. Dia selalu pingin stop Pak.
Oh iya.
Terus aku bilang stop aja hari ini gitu. Sebenarnya dia langsung pergi.
Itu bedanya kalau bule dengan kita ya. Kalau kita itu kadang diingatkan malah sebentar kita masih ini dikit lagi gitu. Kalau mereka
kalau bule on time Pak, dia sudah lewat, dia sudah lebih dari charge-nya.
Iya.
Ya seperti yang permintaan Pak ini tadi itu ya susah, permintaan Pak Nono untuk cari industri.
Nah itu kalau ini Prof, kemarin kan kebetulan saya dan Prof Ir beda ini ya, beda room. Di room 1 itu kan salah satu isunya kan kenapa kalau
administrasi.
Administrasi, kemudian kerjasama kita dengan industri itu agak lelet, susah ya. Ya saya cerita pengalaman saya jadi stafnya WR4 bidang kerjasama itu karena satu kerjasama perguruan tinggi dengan industri itu kadang-kadang orang perguruan tinggi mindsetnya masih seperti kayak ketemu mahasiswanya itu. Yang kedua juga sebenarnya harus ada unit sendiri yang memang dia ngelola hilirisasi hasil riset yang siap dihilirisasi komersialisasi. Saya nggak tahu kalau di ITS, tapi saya lihat yang sudah itu seperti di UGM itu ada PT Gama Multi misalnya gitu. Undip juga sekarang buat PT Undip Maju seperti itu. Kita udah nyiapin beberapa regulasinya yang nanti hasil risetnya itu taruh di sana sehingga dosen itu tetap ada hitung-hitungannya untuk fee dan seterusnya itu. Misalnya produknya itu mau dipakai orang lain di hilirisasi komersialisasi itu seperti itu. Kalau masih diurus sendiri, wah udah
lama.
Birokrasinya panjang dan lama.
Iya, nggak bisa.
Ya, nggak ini ya.
Sini kan sebenarnya belum dipercaya industri itu loh Pak. Hasil output risetnya perguruan tinggi itu belum dipercaya industri. Jadinya kalau saya ingat di Jepang itu justru di apa